Okay, guys. Try this again. 4.7, the second day. We just talked about quadratic formula, right? Negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And to use the quadratic formula to find your ABC, the equation has to be equal to 0. That is the big thing. Now, as we start today, we're kind of doing the second part of the lesson. And the second part of the lesson focuses specifically on a part of the equation called the discriminant. Okay, so this is a discriminant, and the discriminant is what is the b squared minus 4ac. Where do you find b squared minus 4ac in the formula? Under the square root, right? That's in the square root. So, it also is after the plus or minus sign. Plus or minus sign. So, the nice part, there are times where we may not need to know our answers, but we just need to know if there's an answer or how many answers there are. And the discriminant can help us tell us that. So, if b squared minus 4ac turns out to be greater than 0. So, when I say greater than 0, I mean if it turns out to be a positive number, then that means there will be 2 real solutions to the equation. So, just like what we talked about up in our other examples. We really did 4 examples on Friday, and out of those, the word problem had 2 answers, and then A and C up there both had 2 answers. So the typical plus minus, you get a positive, it's going to give 2 answers. However, if your discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, is less than 0, when I say less than 0, I mean negative, then there are no real solutions. If your discriminant is negative, that means you're taking the square root of a negative number. Square root of a negative. Can we do square root of a negative? No. If I give you something like square root of negative 6, what's your calculator going to tell you?
Error.
Yeah, it's going to tell you error. It's going to say, I'm not going to do that. Because square root of a negative 6 results in a non-real number. In fact, next Monday we'll talk about those non-real numbers that we call imaginary numbers. Okay? But the key is that discriminant tells you, if you get a negative discriminant, they're not real solutions. And then lastly, if your discriminant, second example from last Friday, because we had to do a plus or minus 0. And when you add 0 and subtract 0, your number stays the same. And so we had 2 of the same answer. We only had 1 answer. Okay? So, let's look at example A here. Try and zoom in so everyone can see. How many real solutions are there? Negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. So, is it asking me what my solutions are? No, it says how many. Since it says how many solutions are there, that means we can use the discriminant. The discriminant being b squared minus 4ac. Okay? Now, can you tell me your ABCs?
Well,
A is negative 2, it's in front of x squared. B is negative 3, it's in front of x. The C is 5, it's the constant at the end. Okay, so let's fill our numbers into the discriminant. B squared means I'm doing negative 3 squared minus 4 times A is negative 2 times C is 5. Do the math. Negative 3 squared. What's negative 3 squared? 9. On this next part, I see a minus times a minus, or a minus times a negative. So 2 negatives are going to multiply to be a positive. 4 times 2 times 5. 40. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. What do you know about 9 plus 40? It's 49. It's a perfect square. Irrelevant, honestly. What's important about 49?
It's positive.
It's positive. Because it's a positive discriminant, what does that tell me? This problem would have 2 real solutions. Questions there? I say this part's not, I'm not doing anything fancy difficult. The quadratic formula is probably more difficult than this. Okay. Okay, let's try B. What are your thoughts on B? Okay. He said subtract, did you say x squared over?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got to move something, right? Because right now this equation is not equal to 0. So options, we can either subtract x squared, or if you really want to, you can subtract 6x and 5 over to the other side. Officially doesn't matter. Now, okay, the key is my equation has to equal 0. So if I subtract x squared over, 0 equals, make sure you put them in the correct order, right? Meaning that my x squared term has to come first. So negative x squared plus 6x plus 5. Write down your A, B's, and C's if you so desire. Or jump right into the problem, one of the two. What's A? Negative 1. B is 6. And C is 5. Plug into the discriminant. I want to know how many solutions there are. What's happening here? B squared, so 6 squared minus 4 times A, which is negative 1, times C, which is 5. 6 squared is 36. What do you see in the way of signs? Negative, negative, positive. So 2 negatives multiply to be a positive. So this is going to be plus something. In all honesty, I could stop here if I really wanted to. It's going to be plus what? Plus 20. What do you know about 36 plus 20? It's a positive, right? It also so happens to be 56, but in all honesty, what I care about is that that number is greater than 0 or positive. What's that tell me about the solutions? There's 2 of them, and they're real. Okay, one last one on this side. Then we have one problem to do on the back side. And then I'll let you have work time. Okay, what's step 1 on part C? Okay, make sure it's equal to 0, right? This one, it is equal to 0. Identify your ABCs if you want. A is 2 in front of the x squared, B is negative 3 in front of the x, and C is 7. Okay, B squared minus 4AC again. What is B? Negative 3. So negative 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 7. What is negative 3 squared? Positive 9. Minus 4 times 2 is 8 times 7 is 56. What do you know about 9 minus 56? It's negative, yes? Do you have to know what that negative is? Only if they ask, which, okay, in all honesty, I think Math Excel might ask. But, what? Yep, negative 47. The key is negative 47 is less than 0. And it is a negative. So how many solutions does it have? No real solutions. Now, I am writing down on here, no real solutions. Writing down what I just said. If Math Excel asks you how many solutions, no real solutions is the same as saying 0. If you have to give a number answer, so to speak, right? Now, on the back, it's officially 2 word problems. I'll be honest, I'm only going to do A if you're okay with that. I'm only going to do one of them. For the benefit of the people that want to use my work time, I'm going to offer them. Okay. If I can get zoomed out enough, holy God. Okay, there we go. Oof. You hit a golf ball into the air from a height of 1 inch above the ground with an initial velocity of 85 feet per second. The function, h equals negative 16t squared plus 85t plus 112, models the height in feet of the ball at time t in seconds. Will the ball reach a height of 115 feet? Short of predictions, aka guessing at this point. I mean, you've got a 50-50 shot, yes or no. But I want more reassured. Now, no. The question asks, will the ball reach a height of 115 feet? Do I have to know what height it reaches? No, I just have to know, does it reach a height of 115 feet? Thoughts of how I could do this? Based on the fact, now here's your hint, guys. What did the top of this problem say, or even above the problem? Using the discriminant to solve the problem. What we just talked about on the front side, the discriminant tells me not what the solution is, but how many solutions there are. So if you work this out with the discriminant, you get a positive discriminant. That means that it does work. It gives you solutions, so you get a height of 115 feet. If you work it out and it says no solutions, that means what? It doesn't reach 115 feet. Now, good news, they gave us an equation. H equals negative 16t squared plus 85t plus 112. They gave us the velocity of 85. Notice that's already in the equation. They said you hit it from 1 inch above the ground. Well, that's 1/12. That's the 1/12 of a foot. Okay? And then that 16 is the acceleration, which unless you're involved in physics, doesn't mean a whole lot to you. Now, what's the thing I have to do before I officially get into my discriminant here? What? Okay, it has to equal 0, but before we do that, our question is asking, will the ball reach a height of 115 feet? What do I have to do with that 115? Put it in for H. Okay, because right now we just have a generic equation. We specifically want 115. So 115 equals negative 16 t squared plus 85t plus 112. And now we need to make sure it equals 0. How do we make this equal 0? Okay, subtract the 115 to the other side. 0 equals negative 16 t squared plus 85t 1/12 minus 115. How do you do 115 minus a 12? How do you subtract a 12 from something?
I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to say it's 414. No.
I'm trying to figure out how you got that. But,
Well, he
okay.
subtracted one. Yeah.
He just subtracted
I
1
just
from 115.
subtracted 1.
Okay, well, and here's the deal. So we're taking a 12. We're taking a 12th and subtracting 115, right?
Yeah, because I'm getting at this 15 on the wall.
Okay, but you have to have a common denominator to do that.
I don't want to.
Now, here's what I'm going to do. You have a whole number 115. How much, if you have a whole number 115 and we take away 1/12?
That's
114 and 11 twelfths, because if you take away a 12th from a whole, that means you're taking it away from 12 twelfths. So that puts us at 11 twelfths. So if you take 1/12 from 115, you are at 114 and 11 twelfths. Okay? Now, we can work with that fraction, or you could go decimal. Just be careful you don't round it too short if you go decimal. Now, are we using the whole quadratic formula? No, we're just using the discriminant. B squared minus 4AC. So what's B? 85 squared minus 4 times A is negative 16 times C is negative 14 and 11 twelfths. $85 squared
Say 600,000. Or 6,000. I was getting really close. I was on the
7,225. 3 negatives, a minus times a minus times a minus is going to make it a minus or negative. Now, I can type 4 times 16 times 114 11 twelfths into my calculator as is.
Please don't.
I'm going to.
Still don't.
So I'm going to do 4. I'm going to turn my calculator on. There we go. 4 times 16 times, and then I'm doing 114 and 11 twelfths, which on these calculators, this ABC button will make something into a mixed number. So if I hit, so that's 114, if I hit that fraction button, 11, fraction button, 12. That's the same as entering 114 and 11 twelfths. I hit equals, 7,354 and
Case.
0.6 repeating officially. The 7 is just a calculator rounding. So 7,354.6 repeating. You might know that 0.6 repeating is 2/3, but anyways, at this point, what do we know? Several of you are telling me that is a negative. Okay, so we know there's no real solutions. Now, if you do subtract it, it's negative 129.6 repeating. As was pointed out, though, it's less than 0 and a negative. So, on a normal problem, I'd say no real solutions. The question here is, will the ball reach a height of 115 feet? And the answer is no.
It goes in the
Okay.
You hit the
Now.
ball so hard it went through the ground.
What would you have to change if we did B?
Your swing.
B says, will it reach a height of 110? So you put 110 instead of 115 in there, right?
I still think it would be nice.
If anyone works B out, I will tell you it does turn out to be a yes. Because you do get a positive result there. Okay? I don't remember right offhand, honestly. I can check here in a moment. Okay, homework is lesson 4.7 in Math Excel. Use this work time